transition to a K through 6 model for the 2016-17 school year, and that was seconded by you. I'm sorry, what?
Can I discuss it one more time? Okay. When I went to New Hampton, it was, I don't think it was K. It was, we didn't have a kindergarten at the time, so we were in 6th grade. And then I transitioned over to the middle school at 7th grade, and we were all together in the middle school. And I remember walking the halls being really intimidated, running into, you know, the older classmen. You know, you looked up to them, you idolized them, you wanted to be like them. So 6th grade is probably the age where students make the biggest change, hormonally, emotionally, the whole 9 yards. I thought I would love to keep my child and other people's children in that 6th grade elementary model, but the more I experience it myself with my own job and experience what parents say to me, I prefer the 6, 7, 8 model. And I really, unless you can give the 6th graders sort of the middle school, I don't think they need that elementary setup anymore. I don't think it's healthy for them, if that makes sense, but I think they need to get out and meet other people and not be in that same environment. That's my opinion, so I'm not really for it. So if you show me data elsewise to change my opinion, then I'll be open to that.
Just a comment, even though the motion reads pretty definitively, if the results of making the effort to move to the K through 6 model show us that there are problems with it that would not allow us to go forward with it, I think that doesn't mean, or what that means is we could certainly reconsider. Without taking a definitive action along the lines here of making a choice to try to make this work, you have to think pragmatically here. If this vote doesn't pass, then the message to Bridgewater and Hebron is that the compromise posture of K6, which I'm told by those in the know, would be acceptable to those in Bridgewater and Hebron, would force Bridgewater and Hebron to determine that we should leave the district. And if that's going to happen, then the decision not to go to K through 6, to study it essentially and try to make it happen, which is clearly what the motion says, would end up resulting in closing the middle school anyway. It's just going to delay it, because the remaining, what I predict will be with the remaining 4 towns, you just can't afford 5 buildings. So pragmatically, I think this is something we should explore, and I'm in favor of the motion, and thank Ben for making the motion to take a definitive action along the way. We've given ourselves 2 years, and we will see what the population of those grades look like over the next 2 years to make it a little easier.
And can I say that the end of your comments were different from the beginning of your comments? So at the beginning, you said, well, this is our motion, but you know, we can always change our mind, which leaves people with the same uncertainty that they had coming in here. So maybe what we should be doing instead is making a motion that Stacy present us with a plan by X date for going to K through 6 by that year, as opposed to saying we're going there. Because if you say we're going there, we've got to go there. We can't say we're going to do it and then nah.
I disagree. I think the superintendent's going to come up with some logical reasons educationally sound reasons why it's a problem for this school or that school. That's my personal belief. And if that's true at the time, if the population trend doesn't continue to drop, then we're going to have to go with what she says. I believe if, as she earlier said, we can make anything work, then it's just a question of whether we're going to put our backbone behind it and make it work. So,
after giving this some careful consideration, I don't see anything wrong with the K6 model. However, I don't think it's the right thing for us at this time. I don't think it might be the right thing for us in the future. I think there's enough community voice here that's saying very loudly that they don't want us to do this. I think that any move to withdraw from the district will meet a negative vote, whether a withdrawal plan is recommended or not. I think the parents in this district are pretty intent on keeping the middle school. And I think they're pretty intent on keeping the district together. I think we should vote.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so I'm going to call the question. Sue?
No.
you don't have to do a roll call.
What's that?
You don't have to do a roll call.
Well, I'm afraid that if I do it the other way, then nobody will know who's,
It's your prerogative.
yeah, so. Jeff?
No.
Christine? Dawn?
No.
Ben?
Yes.
Vincent Paul?
Yes.
And myself. It does not matter now, but I would say, I want to qualify my answer, so I would say no, because I would support giving Stacy a directive, like I said, to come up with a plan by X time to do this, as opposed to saying do this, because I'm just afraid that we'll say do this, then it will be this haphazard thing because we made a commitment to it, and then it won't be done right.
I would make that. I would make that kind of motion. At the date, I don't know.
Do you want to make a motion?
What's a reasonable? I would make a motion for Stacy to look into how we could do this.
Direct the superintendent as a
Excuse me, ask Stacy. I know, I knew that was wrong, but whatever. The superintendent, we're going to call her, because, you know, but we hope it's still you. All right. Stacy, the superintendent, and direct her to look into how we could do this and what it would cost. And what it would cost to do this for the 16-17 school year by the date of, what kind of time would you like to?
I'm gonna say at least April, because we're doing budget negotiations, all of that, so I would want most of that to be over with before I could really have good time to, I would say maybe April.
Is that good? Do you think that's okay? Is that?
That's too long. That's only really a year from when it would happen. Like that timeline's too long, I think. Sorry,
I'm also
Stacy.
concerned that the middle school needs to be addressed in the plan.
Fix the middle school.
First, are you done your motion?
Yes, and I would
Okay.
accept the friendly amendment.
Okay, so, all right, because your motion didn't yet have a timeline. So right now, you're saying that we direct the superintendent to look at how we can do this. So do this is how we can move to K through 6. And what it would cost for the 2016-17 school year.
Right.
Okay, so without the deadline on it.
And we need to talk about the deadline. It has to be some kind of end date.
Okay, so do you want a second to your motion, and then perhaps you'll amend your motion?
Sure.
Okay, so is there a second? Yes, I second. Okay, now discussion.
I just think that the middle school needs to be included in the plan, in the discussion. From what we've heard here tonight and in the past, the public wants to retain the middle school. And in order to do that, if we're going to pull the 6th grade students out of that building, we need to have some sort of plan that justifies its existence. If we don't justify the existence down the road and have a plan, somebody else is just going to come along, another board's going to come along and say, let's close that building. So there has to be some sort of vision as to what's going to happen there if we go K6.
We're going to bring it back to you, so do you want to amend your motion?
I'm not really sure how to amend that.
Well, I certainly understand your concern, because the board can deliberately make the building under capacity with the intent of closing it, which is valid concern. So wording it is the problem.
Because that's not my intent.
Right,
But
so.
I can understand the fear.
Well, what if it's just, what if it's moved, I can't read, K through 6, what it would cost for the 2016 school year, and a plan for, I don't know, the future of that, a viable plan for the future of that building. I don't know what you want to say. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah.
Christine?
And we have our facilities committee over here that's going to be doing some studies.
Ben, didn't you suggest something about the Bristol Elementary School in addition with the middle school? Did you mention that earlier this evening? That was you, Dan? Okay. Maybe something. Is the Bristol Elementary School an issue facility-wise, structurally?
I mean, it's an old building and has some issues, but again, things like replacing windows, just, we need to keep up the maintenance on it.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a motion that we're discussing, yeah.
Stacy's already, looked at this, and she's identified some basic problems. I think you should allow the facilities committee to come up with at least some preliminary information to base this decision on. And I would propose that rather than doing it now, that you bring it up in a couple months after the facilities committee has gathered some cost figures.
Bring what up?
The K through 6 proposal.
I think that brings us right back to the same place, which is inaction. I think there's no reason why the facilities committee can't be part of what Stacy proposes. So that there's direction, again. The direction can be stay where we are too, but that's not what we're discussing right now.
Now that's back to Jeff's concern about the middle school. And that would be part of, the total calculations on costs.
I'm not sure if I know what you're saying there.
You know, one option, you know, if you really went K through 6, then does it make sense to add a wing for 7 and 8 out here? Or does it make sense to still use the middle school, and it's gonna be way over, it's even over capacity now, to be further over capacity? So then does it make sense to somehow move some of the elementary school in there? There's a lot of variables that, you know, I don't think necessarily giving a tight time frame at this point without some thought should be set.
Well, it sounds like you're supporting the idea that what she gives us is a proposal for going K through 6 by that year and what to do with the excess capacity. No? That's not what you're suggesting?
Just suggesting that come up with a potential cost of doing that.
Well, she would have to have a plan before she can come up with the cost of doing that, right? I mean,
Well,
because like she said, if
like-
you're gonna put offices in that building, then we need more outlets. So that's just sort of a minimum thing. If you wanna put elementary students in there, we need some emergency exits because they don't have them. So,
Another option is adding space onto the elementary schools.
right.
So what cost is that? To me, that makes more sense if we're gonna do K through 6, is to add capacity at the elementary schools. Which then not make sense, and make more sense to renovate the middle school. And that's why I'd rather go through some of those cost options before, you know, any firm decisions made.
That's what I said last time. I said we need an architectural study to cost out all these things, but we have a motion on the floor, and I think the motion is finished, so I'm just going to turn to you and ask, are we done with it? Because I feel like, I don't know if this discussion is helping us with this motion or moving us away from it. I know you're trying to discuss it, but I don't know if we've defined it any more clearly as a result. So the movement was that we direct the superintendent to look at how we can make K through 6 and what it would cost for the 2016-17 school year. Do either of you have anything else to say before I call this?
I was actually working on some wording that would include the middle school in the plan, and a time frame for the plan to be operational, commencing with 16-17. So what I was thinking is set up a plan for 5 years going forward. That'd give us enough time to see if the K-6 model is really going to work, rather than just try it for 1 year and say, well, it didn't work. I mean, if we're going to make this significant a change, we ought to put a timeline into it. And that timeline ought to be included in the formulated plan that's put together.
But you want to include the middle school in the wording somehow. Is
Yeah,
that-
I want to include the middle school in the wording so that the middle school is included in the plan to restructure. So that we're not just having 7th and 8th in that building with decreasing numbers, so that there's some justification for it existing. Whether it's to move the SAU office or whatever.
There's justification for it existing.
Well,
We-
yeah, what
we-
I'm saying is, If we're gonna do it, we need to have a plan, and we need to have it locked in so that,
and Stacy would love that. She would love a 5-year strategic plan. And, yeah. I'm just trying to get at, what are we trying to do right now? We've got a K6 motion. I said I would support it, except that I would rather support that we're directing Stacy to come up with a plan rather than just saying, make a plan, make it work, because that doesn't work out so well. That happened to us when we did kindergarten. It actually happened to us when we went 4-4-4 and we had middle school classes of 35 students. That was absurd. And a lot of people suffered as a result of that. And the same thing happened with kindergarten. We had kindergarten, but we didn't add any rooms and we didn't add any staff. So I don't want to do something like that again. So I'm fine with this motion to direct her to give us a plan. The question is, by when? And then you want to make this part of a 5-year plan, that's fine, but then what's the second benchmark, and is that part of this motion?
well, what I'm saying is I'm trying to come up with a motion to do this, because I like the idea. But I want to have some qualifiers in there that include the middle school, because we can't just do a K6 and leave the middle school hanging out in the breeze. We can't say, all right, we're going to give it a try without creating a trial period. And I agree, we should have a date by when we have this to vote on.
Can I add a couple? So, from my perspective, this will take some time. One is the cost factor. I mean, I could look at, I can identify staffing costs, those kinds of things, supply costs, library books. What I can't identify is the cost for the buildings. That would really need to come from the facilities committee, from probably outside experts. I couldn't tell you what a 2-classroom addition costs. I could guess. I could look at other historical information. So we do need time. I also don't want to do this in isolation of myself. I would like teacher feedback. That's going to take some time. I'd like to meet with teachers, talk to them. What do you see? How do you see 6th grade fitting in here? What does that look like? Perhaps talk to parents about that as well. As the leader of the district, I have the ability to make those decisions, and I can, but I would want their input. What am I not thinking about? I would also add, just Jeff noted, like a trial period. I don't think there is a trial period. There's no such thing as a trial period in education. We go or we don't go. We make a commitment to do something or we don't do it. Because I think the last thing we want to do is land ourselves, well, it's going to be a trial, let's try it for 1 year, and then land ourselves back to undoing what we just did. I think we need to have a good plan in place if we're going to make any change, and we stick with it and make it work. So this, I'll be honest with you, this is not something I can do in a month.
Yeah, nobody liked the trial period. That's what I said after the K-8 study. I said, let's let Bridgewater go K-6 for a year. Let's use them as a test pilot, see how it went, and nobody liked that idea. So it didn't happen. I was looking for cost stuff I had on recent additions, but I think I must not have that particular notebook. So, Jeff, what I'm going to suggest so that we can move this is, what if you make a subsequent motion? That's part of this, so that we do the first motion, and then if that passes, then you do the subsequent motion, or else you ask Sue to revise this motion. And I'll withdraw my second if she wants to revise.
Just include the middle school, I'll be happy.
Well, can I say something like, for the superintendent to study how this can be done while still keeping our middle school viable? Would that work?
Well, if
But
we just
I
do-
don't want to influence the long-range plan either. We want
Right.
a long-range plan. We want people to really work on that and everything. I don't want to sit here in 2 minutes tonight and,
I just want to
you
be
know,
sure
but-
that the middle school is included in the plan.
Can I ask a question? I keep thinking about, I'm going to quote the lady from Bridgewater, where she said, we can do better. I agree with her. We can totally do better. How does this, I just want us to think, how does going K through 6 make things better? Maybe financially, I don't know. But I really want us to think about that too, about how it's going to affect us long range.
I do, yeah, actually. I guess to the motion here, at least how it sits currently with directing the superintendent to, I guess I don't really understand what it says, but it seems like that what we're kind of discussing as far as the inclusion or not inclusion or the allowing the facilities committee to kind of do what it's been tasked to do, it seems like, although we just kind of took a vote, and that's great, but there's still some want, it seems like, to look at what it would look like, to look at how it would affect the district, the K through 6 model. And so that says to me that there's still some sort of a possibility in some fashion to move to a K through 6 model. Well, it seems like you kind of, if you're going to move to a K through 6 model, that provides a ton of direction to the facilities committee. I only point to you because you're chairing it. But if the decision, if we get some information, some more information that says this is what it would look like, and/or this is how you could do it with facilities upgrades, that provides a whole different direction to the facilities committee potentially. So I guess it seems like to me that the motion's going to kind of work, maybe with a shorter timeline that says, come with a presentation on how exactly this would look given the current facilities, current student makeup. What exactly happens if all things stay equal and in 16-17 we go to K through 6? And then that allows that stepping point to be able to say, is this still viable? Well, it's viable if we add a 25 by 25 addition. Is everybody still like, yeah, it's still viable. I'd love to know what that would cost. Well, the facilities committee now has some sort of direction beyond their original scope. I guess, and at the expense of probably not making many friends, I would really, I wonder what the plan would be had I realize it didn't pass, but I wonder what the plan would have been to move to K through 6 had that motion passed. And I wonder why there wasn't more of that information ahead of time. I think that's kind of concerning to me. I get it that if there's not direction, but if there's not information, sometimes we're going to make poor decisions. And so that's somewhat concerning to me. It comes back to a lack of ability to present information, and it comes back to sometimes a lack of ability to get information. That's kind of aside, but I think it's somewhat pertinent to this. So I think we should be expecting to see in the next couple months, if we can move forward with this, some type of study that says, or just a report that says, more clearly, this is what it would take to do today, and that provides the direction for the rest of this. Because otherwise, the facilities committee is potentially going to do a whole mess of work that doesn't need to be done.
So anyway, I'm just going to restate the motion, okay? So the motion is to look at, to direct the superintendent to look at how we can be K through 6 by 2016-17 and what it would cost. So if there's no other comment, I'm going to call this question. Okay? Okay. All right. Sue?
Yes.
Jeff?
No.
Christine? No. Don?
No.
Ben?
Yes.
Vincent Paul?
Yes.
And me, yes. Okay. 1, Wait a minute, who'd I miss? But I didn't write someone down, so Sue, Jeff, Christine, Don, Ben, Vincent, Paul, okay. Okay, so it passed. It does not have a deadline on it. It does not have a do this by on it. So, no, I don't want a 10-year plan. I want people to at least know what we're working on. So I'm going to make a motion that we see this plan. Hold on, I can't write. All right, so I move that we have this plan by February of 2015 for our first board meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vincent Paul. Discussion.
I just wanted to ask the superintendent if that would be at all possible.
I know, I understand that the budget is in the middle of this, and we vote in March, so that's why
I said April.
could you,
Could we do the end of March? Would that be, with everything else falling into place, then those things that we vote on coming into play and maybe doing some revisions by the end of March?
I will work as hard as I can. That's what I can tell you.
We still haven't included the middle school in the,
Right, yeah, we're not done. Do you want to ask her to do both of those at the same time?
Then it definitely needs to be.
Yeah, yeah.
well, I think if we're making a plan, then we need to include both sides of the plan.
I find it difficult to understand how the superintendent could not address it, Jeff, as part of the need to do the K through 6 plan. So, to me, it's moot that it's, whether it's included or not. I don't see how she can come up with a plan that won't include it.
I could just give you the K to 6.
Yeah, that's what I would expect, and not more than that at this first stage. I would expect then a follow-up to, okay, so now we have space, and what's the best use for that space? And I don't mean emptying it, I mean, how else can you make the, the building useful besides what it's intended for, which is teaching and learning. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, then I'm going to call this question. Okay, so the motion is that we have this plan by February of 2015 for our first board meeting. I'm going to do the same thing I've been doing all along. So Christine?
No.
Jeff?
No.
Sue?
No.
Dawn?
No.
Okay, it failed. But I'll call the rest anyway. Ben? Yes. Vincent Paul?
Yes.
And I made it, so yes. Okay, all right, so that failed. So is there another motion? Now's your chance if you want to make this a big comprehensive plan and give an extended time for putting it all together. You just got to come up with the words.
I already have the 6th plan.
Yes, but if in creating a new due date, you want to,
I'm having trouble deciding how much pressure to put on the superintendent during the school year.
Yeah. Well, she already said don't.
Well, anything I can come up with seems unreasonable, so I don't want to be the one to make the motion. All right, I'll make a motion.
It's motion night.
I say we give her until the end of the school year. And that it include both sides of the plan, include the middle school.
Okay, yeah, but I can't put that down as a motion, so can you finesse it a little bit?
Well, what'd you have before? Just change the dates.
So Jeff moves that we, well, no, I said that we have this plan, meaning a K through 6 plan by February, but now,
I'm saying K through 6 and middle school plan, or a K through 6 plan to include what happens in the middle school by the end of the school year, June 30th.
okay, I'm just gonna sort of write what I think you were saying. So Jeff moves to direct the superintendent to have the K through 6 plan, including a plan for the future of the Newfound Memorial Middle School by June 30th, 2015. I don't know if you want to say the future of the building, so I'm not sure what you really want to say there.
Madam Chair, what was the motion that passed 4-3?
The motion that passed was, hold on, the second one, that we direct the superintendent to look at how we can move to K through 6 and what it would cost for the 2016-17 school year.
I didn't have a deadline.
Right, and it had no date.
Okay, so that motion remains in effect.
Yes. We were just discussing a date. And then I said, since the first date didn't pass, that if Jeff wants to add the middle school, then he can do that as part of the same. We just need language.
I would submit that if Jeff wants to do that, he would need to suggest an amended motion with a specific date.
I'm going to withdraw my motion.
In light of everything that the superintendent has to do between now and contracts in April, I would like to give the superintendent until April, the board meeting in April, first board meeting in April, to conclude the plan that we had previously voted in favor.
That was what she asked for, so I'm just gonna restate. So you move that we have this plan by April 2015 at the first board meeting.
Yes.
Yes. Is there a second?
Second.
Leah, you got that?
So, yeah.
Sue, yeah. Okay. Any discussion about that? Okay. Okay. Christine? I'm sorry? Okay. Jeff?
No.
Sue?
Yes.
Don?
No.
Ben?
Yes.
Vincent Paul?
Yes.
And I'm yes. Okay, so April. Anything else on this topic? Okay, you don't want to add anything about,
Well, I'd have to amend the original motion, I think.
no, I don't think you do. We want to look at a long-range facility plan and a long-range educational plan. That strategic plan has to have both. So if you wanted to make a motion about that, I mean, the superintendent with the board can create a strategic plan without a motion anyway. It's a smart thing to do. But if you want to write one that protects the middle school so that someone doesn't say, oh, it's only half used,
I
then,
think there's time for that in the future.
okay. Okay, then we're on to the next agenda item, which is the oil bid. The only other agenda item.
Have a copy of that. We actually, for the first time to try to save money, we actually went out to bid for the oil with the town so that we could try to get some better bargaining with volume. You'll see the 3 bids that came in. We are actually recommending, Mike is recommending that we go in and in consultation with Mike Capone at the town, with Fred Fuller, with Dead River, sorry. Dead River, we had 3 bids, Dead River, Fred Fuller, AD&G Fuel were the 3 bids. We're recommending going with Dead River for consistency of service, for better performance of service. Their fuel oil price was 2 cents higher. It is still below what we budgeted, but we believe we will get better service overall. We had some issues this year, as most of you know, so.
Why, last year AD&G came in at the lowest price also. Why don't we consider them?
Their bids actually expire before we can even make a day into them. So like, that price isn't guaranteed for me. They also can't do the other products. I can't recommend that price, and I discussed this with Mike Capone as well. Just due to the uncertainty of it, that's not the price we're gonna get. These other 2 came in with fixed prices that are guaranteed on contract. I certainly will try to get an even better deal with them, but as I would with any vendor. We're both recommending that we do this, mostly for the reliability and of service. We've found some issues. That doesn't mean we would go back to a Fred Fuller, in the future. We'll keep our options open with that, and we certainly are glad they bid on this.
So this includes diesel? Is that for the buses?
No.
No.
We use diesel for other
All right.
products, and
That's-
not in a huge number. I do have our quantities available. And just to give you an idea, the 2 cents that we're talking about is only really about $1,300. We use just over 67,000 gallons of number 2 heating fuel.
And how much propane do we use?
It's in the 4,000 gallon range, so it's not that significant for when it comes to pricing.
So the fact that they're lower on propane isn't as significant?
It doesn't offset the 1,300 that I would be talking about.
I like this just because it shows that we are working with the town of Bristol.
I know, that's good.
So kudos to whomever's idea that was.
It's been done in the past. I'm all about cooperation, including within the towns. And I think we're a lot stronger by using all of our resources. And of course, I know Stacy and I would love to do more of that cooperative work in the future. And that's what we do. I would talk to other towns about enrollment figures and all that. Should be an open conversation.
Is this what you used last year for?
I think we were looking at averages, because we actually looked at a 3-year average. I do believe we used about 67, 471, something like that last year.
Because you're planning a cold
pretty
one
good.
again.
Yeah. Well,
Another
it's a
cold
good number. It's
snow.
never going to be perfect, depending on the winter, but. Which is also why we waited till September to go out to bid. Historically, we get some good pricing this time of year.
That must be why they set their payment plans in June. So you lock in before you know whether or not they'll be any good. Yeah. Okay, I make a motion that we approve your recommendation to accept Fred Fuller's bid. I'm sorry, Dead River's bid. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, let me do that. I'm gonna make a big arrow. Yeah, okay, so I make a motion that we approve your recommendation that we accept Dead River's bid to provide us with propane, number 2 fuel oil, and diesel fuel for the upcoming school year. That's second by Christine. Any comments?
Next year, you ought to see if we can get an employee by a price. Locked in at the same number.
I know.
Well, I
That'd be good.
looked in from my building, this last year, and noticed that the school district was paying the same price sometimes. Well, this is about, I don't know, almost 30 cents cheaper than I logged in. So I like that you did this. I just want to get in on it too.
Okay, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Those were the only two items on our agenda. We do have a meeting about negotiations to follow, but that's private. So is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Sue moves, and a second? Second by Ben. What time is it? 9:10? Feels so much later here in the dark, yeah, okay. Okay, then we're all done. Thanks, Fred.